Welcome to the South Carolina Farm Bureau Young Farmer Discussion Meet Contest. I am Trent Pendarvis of Dorchester County, currently serving my first year of the Young Farmer and Rancher Committee for the Coastal District Representative. I will be serving as your room chair today. Your contest mediator will be Dean Hutto of Orangeburg County. Dean is currently serving a second year as a representative on the American Farm Bureau Young Farmer and Rancher Committee. Our timekeeper today for this contest is Allison Witten of Oconee County, who is being a new Piedmont District Representative. Today we have there are two semifinal rounds. The top two contestants from each semifinal round with the highest total score will win a $250 cash prize and advance to the final round, where they will compete for an E-Z-GO golf cart and a certificate of up to $500 in steel merchandise. The winner will also receive an expense-paid trip to compete nationally at the 2022 American Farm Bureau Federation annual meeting in Atlanta. Compliments of South Carolina Farm Bureau Federation and an expense-paid trip to the 2022 American Farm Bureau Federation Young Farmer and Rancher Leadership Conference in Louisville, Kentucky. Compliments of Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company. Our topic for discussion today is, as the world population increases, so will the need for renewable resources. On a local level and across the globe, how can Farm Bureau help farmers and ranchers continue to increase their efficiency in the use of valuable resources and transition into green energy practices on their farm or ranch? The judges and timekeepers for this and contestants will have been briefed in the rules of the contest. I'll let your moderator, Dean Hutto, control the contest at this time.
Thank you, Trent. Appreciate everybody coming today to watch this semifinal round. Your support will mean a lot to the contestants, I'm sure. The contestants today in our semifinal round are Joe Oswald from Allendale County, Jillian Courtney from Aiken County, and Nicole Correa from Lexington County. As Trent mentioned, the contestants have been briefed on the contest and realized that their general discussion will be directed at each other rather than the audience. I will interrupt the contest only if necessary to assist with progress. For those of you attending a discussion contest for the first time, we begin with each contestant giving a 30-second opening statement. Following the opening statements, there will be 25 minutes of open discussion, and then a 1-minute closing statement from each of the contestants. All right, contestants, you may now in voluntary order make your 30-second opening statement. Please direct your opening statements to the audience, and the timekeeper will indicate when your 30 seconds have elapsed. Somebody's got to go first.
Farmers and ranchers today already utilize tons of techniques for sustainable farming and green type farm work. Farm Bureau can assist with continuing to move these practices forward by connecting farmers and other industries such as solar industries in order to ensure that farmers get the best deals with finances and assistance, as well as making the best connections for the long-term future. I look forward to discussing future options with all of you.
I want to start off by saying I'm very thankful to be back in Myrtle Beach, very happy to be back at convention again. And I look forward to this competition every year. It means a lot to me, and I look forward to discussing the issue of green energy. And it's an important topic today with fuel prices and everything going on in this country. This is a very important issue that we need to discuss, and something that's going to change the way we produce energy for farming and across the globe.
Good afternoon. I believe that Farm Bureau can continue working with farmers as they are already using these greener farming techniques, perhaps just encouraging, keep promoting, but also trying to find new sources or other options. Options that I know solar and wind are pretty common or have been mentioned before, but maybe landfill gas, other options such as that.
All right, thank y'all. You've heard everyone's opening statements, and contestants, you may now proceed with the discussion. Please direct your discussion to your fellow panel members.
I'll start, I guess, with a question. I know this is a big thing going on today, green energy, and there's a lot of different solutions to the problem. As far as on farms, a lot of farms are being converted into solar panels. A lot of farmers are taking that money and that's taking ag production land that is very productive in South Carolina and putting it into solar panels, which is making energy, but it's not producing food for us. What do y'all think about that issue of you know, farmers being paid big money to take their farmland out of ag production and put it into energy production?
I feel like there is an opportunity to pair both farming and green energy production. Although from personal experience, I feel like something that Farm Bureau can do to assist with something like that is to potentially provide legal resources to farmers to ensure that farmers are being treated fairly. My family, for example, raised sheep, and so we had a solar contract that we had signed on, and halfway, how do I explain it? We worked with a solar company. It was only us. We didn't have legal counsel, and of course the solar company did have a lot of legal backing, and they had multiple partners, and when it came time for the contract, they did not fulfill their end of it by not providing water for our sheep, and so we ended up pulling out of the contract. We could have pursued something further, being that they didn't fulfill their end, but it wasn't worth it for us at the time, and I do think that that is potentially something that Farm Bureau could assist with to help farmers along, because if I had thought to even reach out to our Farm Bureau, I'm sure that they would have helped us navigate through that. I mean, I know that you mentioned wind power and solar as well. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what your thoughts are?
That's really hard to follow. You sounds like you've had a lot of experience with this. You had mentioned that they did not guarantee water to your sheep. Mm-hmm. So what, per se, like how?
So in the contract that we signed prior to bringing livestock to the location, they did guarantee water. When the animals arrived, they said, we can get water to you in 2 days. And, you know, obviously livestock are not going to last that long. And so we asked what their timeline and what they were going to do in order to fix the problem. They didn't have a solution, and so we walked essentially.
Yeah, that's what we were in the same boat. We've had a lot of people come to us with solar contracts, and they'll pay you for 5 years. But I've seen a lot of farms in the area, in my area and across the state, go to solar energy, and some very beautiful farmland. They've removed pivots, they've taken up wells, and they just put solar panels, and they fenced it in and plant some shrubs around it, and they call it a day. And I haven't wanted to, you know, take a property that's been in my family for 4 generations and turn it into that. But it's something that's a growing concern. But there's a lot of other ways, you know, on the farm, and a lot of other renewable energy resources that have come up. And there's actually an ash plant. And they burn wood chips, and there's 2 of them in the state, and you can take the ash, the top ash from that, and actually put it back on your farm and as fertilizer, and it raises the pH of the soil, and that's a very green energy source. It's burning a product that is just a waste product, that would be a waste product, and then, you know, taking it and putting it back on the farm as fertilizer.
It seems like using other byproducts from animals or from produce. I know that there's some families that use some produce waste for livestock consumption.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know as far as efficiency with average daily gain or anything like that, but that could be a possibility, looking at other reuse.
So with those thoughts in mind, I know I work with a lot of homestead folks out in Lexington, and they definitely try to do a lot of those practices. Do either of you have thoughts on how you might be able to put those types of practices into a commercial operation? I know that you already mentioned
Yeah.
that portion of it, but.
Yeah, there's that, there's the solar industry, and there's a lot of ways that farmers, in today's time can conserve the energy that they use, so that, energy being produced is not, you're not paying for or using more energy than you need on the farm. There's a lot of variable rate technology to do with irrigation. I mean, well pumps, they consume a lot of energy and a lot of electrical costs per year. And especially one thing that's very conservative is this converting your diesel pumps into electric, which are a lot more reliable. You're not producing emissions.
How much does
And they
that
can-
usually cost,
Converting them
converting it over?
with electrical prices, the way electrical prices are, have been in the past, years, and electrical prices are coming down over time, depending on the amount of production, and they're doing a lot with nuclear production to produce more energy. But you can essentially, especially the way fuel prices are nowadays, electric is a lot cheaper.
A lot cheaper.
I mean, you're talking about 20-25% cheaper than what fuel would be. And I mean, you take that 25% and, multiply it by, 4 years, and you probably got it paid for. But variable frequency drives, they are a way that farmers can pump water, but they only pump the water that they need. It's like a throttle for an electric motor. So when you turn on a pivot, it's only running that motor at the efficiency it needs to pump the 1,000 gallons a minute needed to run that irrigation system. And that's a big cost saving, and using a lot less electricity, so we don't have to make as much electricity.
Do y'all feel like producers are gonna be able to convert per se to like you said, the electric pump? Do you think that's a feasible thing to ask for smaller producers, or
There-
they need assistance?
The USDA has a lot of rural grants programs that you can apply for. I think Walter Dancer just got one for $19,000 to convert his grain dryer into a new, more efficient grain dryer. So, if he's got a natural gas line running to his farm, and he's having to run his grain dryer, say all the month of August, drying corn, if he can afford to buy a dryer that's newer, more advanced, doesn't waste natural gas as much as, one that was made in the 70s, then that's a good program to get into. And those grants are on USDA's website. They can be found and applied for to kind of update your old and outdated equipment around the farm. And it's not just for grain dryers. I think they have it for a lot of energy using stuff on the farm that are available.
So something that Farm Bureau could potentially assist with would be providing potentially grant workshops, I imagine. I know that they already
Yeah.
do a ton of workshops and provide educational resources, but I imagine, adding that to their website if it's not already current, something like that would make a huge difference.
Yeah, that would be a great opportunity with Farm Bureau putting that stuff in front of us. And Farm Bureau has produced some documents that Walter Dancer is a big part of Farm Bureau, and he's, that he wanted to share that with Farm Bureau information.
And how did he find out? Did you tell him about that grant, or did he find out through
I
just
found out from him,
from
a
him?
news article.
Okay, it's pretty much word of mouth, kind of.
Yeah. Yep, just a news article. But yeah, that's something and that's something that is totally new. That grant I hadn't heard of, 2 months ago. I don't think I'd ever heard of it until recently. So that's something, that Farm Bureau could have some workshops on and encourage people to do things like that. I know, with the way prices are, a lot of farmers are going to be looking for options to save money and be more efficient in the future. And Farm Bureau can definitely be a voice for us on that, and teach farmers in this area how to be more efficient and to conserve their energy.
I do think it's fair that we also highlight some of the wonderful things that farmers and ranchers have done through the use of genetic improvement and ensuring that nutrition quality is good of their animals. So increasing average daily gain, it really in itself, like on the livestock side of things, I'm sure you can talk more on the row crop side of things, but I think it's important that we also highlight that farmers have already come a very long way, and we get to showcase that, they are feeding more, there are less farmers feeding more people in the world today, and that trend is only gonna continue.
Yep. Yeah, and that's one thing Farm Bureau, you mentioned in that, Farm Bureau could, the point that the industry and consumers and your regular household in cities and the industry is using a lot more electricity and energy than farmers are. Farmers are only using energy when they're producing their crops for the primary producing and harvesting their crops. From November, December through the spring, I mean, there's not a lot of energy usage going on a farm. It's very quiet around there. So that's a point that, you know, Farm Bureau could let energy companies know that, you know, they're not using energy all year round like most industries are, and households having to heat their houses, big you know, communities that are put up in fields that are being built in these cities and making the cities grow and using more energy.
It's just like the big water debate in Aiken County with them arguing that the large farm operations are using more water than your golf course, or all of the home developments for their lawns. So that's a big debate.
We could also put cattle on the golf course. Just saying. I don't think anyone would be very happy about that, but if you want to talk
fertilizer.
about sustainability.
Cattle farming, the U.S. and cattle production is one of the most sustainable countries for cattle production in the world. I mean, we produce cattle more efficiently and beef than any other country in the world, and we're able to do it with a lot less. I know with dairy farms, and in the 50s, we have gone from having 22 million dairy cows in the United States to having 9 million dairy cows and producing 60% more milk than we used to.
Do y'all feel like as far as like use of other techniques like combination of crops, dual crops, like silvopasture could possibly be more of a promoted incentive of reducing the amount of carbon? I know there's a big debate about that. And maybe, you know, do a combination with cattle, or I don't know exactly how you go about hay, but I've heard folks doing hay in that combination of pine trees.
So we actually did a workshop recently on silvopasture to kind of encourage folks to at least consider it. I think it's a great opportunity for folks to do a little bit of both, and it also helps to alleviate some of the concerns of, you know, if one product goes bad or goes awry, you've got a second one as your backup. The other thing on that note as well about planting and forages is I do want to mention about how wonderful South Carolina does, because we do a lot of forages, and so focusing on winter forages and not necessarily having to always truck in our hay is very important, and we do a lot of hay on our own as well. The thing that I think we could be working on a little bit, and maybe Farm Bureau can kind of promote this, is doing a little bit more cover crop mixing with cattle. That's something that'll definitely help with our soil quality and help cattle farmers in the long run, and a lot of that can help with daily gains and things like that too. So, you know, adding something along those lines would really help as well.
There's a lot of producers that'll go, that I know that'll go through row crop and end up winter graze and then put their cattle back on there, or glean cotton or corn.
Yes, that's a great way. Those mogul pastures you were talking about, and having to do cover crops. We, you know, our two earliest fields we get the crops out of, we'll start planting grazing for the winter, and that's a good way to get two uses out of that field. And then the next spring, you'll be done grazing it, and especially needed in a time like now when it's really dry. That's a important commodity to have is good grazing for the winter when your grass is not growing and you don't have any pasture to graze anymore.
And we already had a hard enough hay season as it is.
Yeah.
Do you all think that it's possible then, if we're on that note, knowing that farmers are doing their best already, is it possible that Farm Bureau could potentially ask for federal funding to be able to provide maybe grant money for, you know, seed and things like that? Is that something you think would be, what do you think about it?
I think that would be great.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Farm Bureau partnered with Clemson on that. I mean, I know Clemson does a lot of research on cover crop, and we have 2 plots with them right now. One through Hillary Pope, and then another professor is doing a cover crop mix with cotton. He's doing on our property, and they're just trying to find the right mix of what will help fixate nitrogen on cotton and you know, produce the best crop. And those cover crops, like you said, for the carbon credits. When you were talking about that earlier, I've been thinking about that, and a big debate on that to me is like farmers are, and Farm Bureau could really protect us on this and help us navigate that carbon credits, because the carbon credits that we're doing, we're taking carbon credits away from industries that can't, you know, produce too much carbon, and they're wanting us, you know, to plant cover crops and do things. And this is something we already do on our farm. It's not a problem, you know, for us to get paid for something we already do, but all we're doing is offsetting carbon that another industry doesn't want to reduce, you know, for their gain of profit
Their
and
gain.
gain of what they're doing. So they want us, you know, the government's paying us to take the responsibility of, you know, removing that carbon with carbon credits. And that's just a way I thought about it. It's just a two-sided sword. It's, you know, we're doing the right thing, but we're doing the right thing for somebody who doesn't want to do the right thing.
Right.
So at what point do we politely ask Farm Bureau if they could assist with maybe navigating those other industries? I mean, we kind of already touched on that earlier to allow farmers fair amounts, but do we ask Farm Bureau to go ahead and work with other industries to encourage them to then reduce their carbon emissions as well? And I know that's not necessarily like, you know, we don't want to push Farm Bureau past their limits, but at the same time, maybe there's an opportunity there.
Did either of y'all attend the carbon credits? There was a
I did not get to see that.
discussion. Yeah, I was busy doing other things. But yeah, they had a carbon credit. I mean, that was something that was brought up today. They already had a general session on it. I just wasn't able to attend it. Had a lot going on, but what do y'all think going forward is the best renewable or green energy source that could be done in the United States? You know, what is the number one thing in 50 years that we'll look at and say, well, that is the best? Because, I mean, right now, nuclear energy is one of the most efficient and one of the most used in the U.S. If somebody's going to build a new, you know, facility to power a city, they're going to build a nuclear plant.
Nuclear plant.
I would say that it's a little bit off the wall, but the best thing that we can do in the U.S., I would think, is to take a step back. I feel like there are a lot of practices that were used hundreds of years ago that are not currently used today that we could now implement. But the problem is that none of those things have scientific backing. And so something, I mean, maybe even that Farm Bureau could assist with ensuring that, you know, the graduate research is done. But for example, so I'm from Hawaii originally, and back in the day, what they used to do for farming was they would stack everything. So everything went mountain to ocean. And so they would put things like kalo, taro, you know, all the crops that are grown underground up at the top, and then they would put their livestock at the bottom so that there's no concern of like biosecurity, right? But we don't use those practices today because there's no, the graduate students and professors haven't really done a whole lot of research to prove that it works. And so I think that if we were to take a step back and kind of utilize things that haven't been done in a very long time and combine that with our current technologies, I think that would probably be one of the best things we could do. Another thing that I think would be very helpful to the United States is utilizing farming practices in other countries, such as Korean natural farming. It's a farming technique used to feed 4 people on 1 acre for a year. And obviously your intent is to continue feeding yourself. And it includes vegetables, fruits, and livestock. And so I think if we can incorporate those techniques in the United States, I think that would make a huge impact for us in our long-term sustainability. And they could take a lot of notes from us too.
Yeah, so, and again, in Korea, you're dealing with a lot less land and feeding, and we're, you know, one of the number one ag producers in the world as far as production and numbers, and we export a lot. And, you know, if our country is growing at the rate that it is and our state is growing at the rate that it is, we have to, like Michael was saying in his Ag Excellence program, you know, find that balance between the city and industry and farmland, and not cross the two. We have to know when to stop the industry from moving out and keep, you know, ag production going in this state, because the more land that's taken out of ag production, that's less production down the line, and our, you know, the rate our state and country is growing, we've got more mouths to feed all the time. Have y'all ever heard of, you know, speaking of renewable energy and green energy stuff, there's like, you know, windmills are primarily in the West. We have solar panels. They all have their issues. They actually have, you know, upside down windmills that a lot have been proposed off the state of South Carolina, and that's something we could look into that follow currents there. Like it's a buoy, and the windmill is basically upside down like a propeller, and as the tide goes in and out,
Provides,
and that's a good solution. There's a lot of current around Charleston, Savannah River, Beaufort. We have a lot of natural,
Water.
current and water that's here that could be supplemented to keep from having to build more nuclear plants or take ag production land and turn it into solar panels, because I've seen those fields, and that it just makes the farm look totally different. And then you have your panels that don't work. You can look across there and see they're not being properly maintained, so they're not actually producing electricity like they should, or not following the sun like they should. What do y'all think about those, the windmills that go in the ocean,
I
to
think
use
that'd be
something
a
that's
really
very
great
renewable?
idea, especially like you said, we have all this coast.
Yeah.
Want to make use of it.
The nice part about that too is that there is a potential to include more agriculture with that. Why can't we grow shrimp? Why can't we raise tilapia in those kinds of areas? So incorporating both the renewable energy and then maybe fencing off an area that you could continue to grow those types of things, it would just not only increase the energy portion of it, but continue the agriculture of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think South Carolina as a whole, as far as, you got Louisiana and Gulf have their shrimp, and then South Carolina, Low Country is known for their shrimp, and not shrimp farming, but just, the ecosystem and the water we have here is unpolluted, and it allows for a lot of great shrimp, and, oyster farming is a big thing down there too, when all the oysters, have been taken from their natural places. People have learned to grow them because people enjoy them so much, so they're learning to grow them now.
You'll have a little bit less than 5 minutes. Just
I had mentioned earlier in my open statement, just an oddball other green renewable is they had found landfill gas. If y'all ever heard of that?
You did mention that.
Where they actually use the gas produced from the compost. It's not a great amount, but it's just another way that could be used. I think it was methane and carbon dioxide is what they take up, and somehow it's converted over. But I mean, I think it's only like 0.3%
Yes.
of what it could, but it's better than nothing.
I've seen that
So-
done in California. I've seen it, and a lot of times they'll, to keep the methane from polluting the world, they'll have it burning constantly. So they're constantly burning the methane as it comes out. And I guess if there's a way to trap that energy and convert it into, usable energy for us, that's a great solution, because like anything else, growing population, we're going to have more trash. We're going to have more things we have to deal with, and I think that's a issue that a lot of communities deal with in South Carolina too. I've seen communities where they have landfills, and everybody down that road, they propose putting a landfill, and everybody puts a sign up, the whole community's against it, but it's, primarily because cities are growing.
We're
They're
gonna have to
filling
have
up a landfill
somewhere.
here and having to dig another one here, so they're having to find, more places to put people's trash, and it's a sad situation, but it's the,
Maybe make it a little
Situation we
bit, make
live
it a little bit better.
yeah.
The other thing on that note of tons of people and trash, and it made me think of buildings. Something we didn't get to touch on during this time was potentially having Farm Bureau assist with more of the urban type farms. I know that a lot of folks are trying to do stuff on rooftops, and I think like for us it's a little bit different because we're here in South Carolina, whereas folks in places like New York, they could really utilize something like that. I mean, on a national level.
Yeah.
I
And
think it's
farm-
vertical farming.
Yep, vertical
Yeah.
farming would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think Farm Bureau's had some stuff like that when we had it in Charleston. They've
Yep,
had a
yeah,
whole
with the
conversation about it.
hydroponics, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big thing. Is just finding people that want to do it in the city, and finding people that have the drive and motivation to put something together like that to feed. But on the green energy thing, looking forward, a lot of things are changing in this state and country. So it's something that we're going to have to adapt to and move forward. And making energy green tomorrow is not something we're going to snap our fingers and just make happen. But it is something that we're going to have to look at, and something that the reason we're having so many options on renewable energy is because fossil fuels aren't going to last forever. They don't, people don't, they're increasing, they say they're increasing global warming, and it's not such that I believe or don't believe that, but green energy is a problem, and we're going to have to, move on from fossil fuels, and we'll have electric tractors one day. And I know that's coming. That day is coming, and it'll be here before we know it. Just something we'll have to adapt to and take on when we get there.
So who do you think is going to make the electric tractors first?
Who do you think?
John Deere?
They probably will. I mean, they'll probably have to jump on it. Then they'll have a patent, and then Case won't be able to make tractors for 5 years. So then they'll have the market on it for 5 years and sell all electric tractors when nobody else can make one. So you're forced to buy from them. But whoever gets it first, they got a gold mine there. If they work good, which you hope they put enough battery packs in them that you can at least run from daylight to 10 o'clock. We don't only stop at lunch and charge our tractors. We got to be able to.
Unless you have like little power stations throughout.
Well, see, there's where you need your solar. You just have it right on the hood of the tractor.
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah, self-charging tractor.
Self-charge. Maybe while you're,
you can't run all
it
night.
can charge back up as it's moving.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a very viable solution too. I've seen wheels on cars that self-charge themselves
Yeah.
by friction.
So that might be a.
Time has been called. All right, so contestants, please prepare your closing statements. Audience, if you would, please remain silent for 1 minute. All right, your minute's up. Please put your pencils down. And in voluntary order, please give us your 1 minute closing statement.
I'm glad that, in closing, I'm glad we were able to talk this through on this subject of renewable energy. We had a lot of great ideas moving forward that this state and this country are going to have to do to tackle the green energy problem. And Farm Bureau has already taken steps by having programs here to inform us about green energy and carbon credits. And I am just so proud of this state and Farm Bureau and to be a part of it. And like Governor Henry Masters said yesterday in his speech, Farm Bureau and agriculture is the backbone of this state and the country. And I think it will continue to be in the future. Thank you.
I just want to thank you all for hearing us today and listening to our discussion meet. I appreciate the time that everyone took today, and I just want to say that we had a fantastic conversation about potential changes that can be made. We were able to discuss what Farm Bureau can do, which includes providing additional grants and resources and workshops, which they already do for us every day. They could potentially provide additional education to the public, talking about the carbon footprint that farmers and ranchers don't do, and continuing to assist farmers and ranchers with navigating things such as carbon credits. Farmers and ranchers can continue to keep doing what they're doing every day, and as educational opportunities arise and we gather more information from both the United States and other countries, I think that we can do a fantastic job of getting the U.S. Fashion forward in sustainable ag.
As they both said, I feel like we've covered a lot of ideas here. But I believe that Farm Bureau can provide farmers with future workshops, hopefully with breaking down grants and with providing grants for new green resources and perhaps helping them out and not getting taken advantage by companies, or maybe working with them more in the future. I also think that they can help with assistance in looking at research of kind of a balance of the old techniques that we don't use, such as Nicole had mentioned, and perhaps some of the new that could probably, hopefully, work out in the future for our, the future in farming in South Carolina.
Thank y'all. Now I'll turn the room back over to Trent and Darvis.
Thank you, Dean, for a well-run contest. Now it's up to our judges to select today's winner. I'd like to recognize our judges today. Troy Helms, please stand. Agriculture Education Associate Director with the Clemson Extension. Thank you for your time. Blake Lanford, Coastal District Extension Director and Assistant Director for Field Operations for Clemson Extension. And Jonathan Croft, Agriculture Extension Agent for Clemson Extension. Judges, thank you for helping us with our contest today. Let's all give them a round of applause. Now I would ask the judges and the timekeeper to report to the tabulation room with me. Dean, would you have them take a minute to let the contestants introduce themselves?
Thank you, Trent. So, guys, if y'all would we'll start with Joe over here and just tell us a little bit about yourself. Make sure you include your involvement in Agriculture Farm Bureau.
My name is Joe Oswald. I'm from Allendale County. I'm a member of the Salkehatchie Young Farmers and Ranchers. This is my third year on the Farm Bureau Committee. We had to skip a year because of COVID, so they rolled us onto an extra one. I serve on the State Board Committee. Also, we farm row crops and cattle in Allendale. We have peanuts, corn, soybeans, cotton, and we have 200 head of brood cows.
I'm Jillian Courtney. I'm from Aiken County. I'm also the Aiken County YNFR chair, and I guess I'm a newbie, part of the state committee as well. I work at Clemson University's Edisto Research Center as one of their assistant cattle managers. I help out with the Edisto bull test as well as the heifer development program and any of the forage and cattle research there.
Hello everyone, my name is Nicole Correa. I'm out of Lexington County and I work for Clemson University. I am part of the Lexington County Farm Bureau and just getting started with YFNR. I'm in my first year, thanks to Justin Blue, who's here today. And I work with livestock, I'm livestock and forages. Thank you for having me.
Thank y'all. Let's give all of them a round of applause. All right, as we mentioned at the beginning, the top two contestants from each semifinal round with the highest total score will advance to the final round. The contestants for the final round will be announced at 5 p.m. in the room next door, and the topic will be announced at that time. I hope that each of you will have the opportunity to attend with us. In closing, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, and the South Carolina Farm Bureau Federation. Also, I'd especially like to thank you in the audience for your support of our discussion meet and the YFNR program. This concludes our semifinal round. The 4 finalists and final round topic, as I said, will be announced at 5 or as soon as the judges have a decision, so y'all might want to stick around out in the hallway. And the final round will begin at 5:15 next door. Thank y'all.
Good job, guys.
No, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a job.
You get lost sometimes in that subject.
No, you had news. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that one.
Sorry, I stuttered. I can't.
There's nothing wrong with that. Just because you stutter doesn't mean you don't know the information.
I have it all in my head, but it won't come out.
Because I know like producing big cattle, but there was a number of how many big cattle you got like 7 versus how many have now. And how much big
We're going back to
I built one, but I couldn't
yeah.
I'm terrible with statistics,
No.
so it's like I looked at it over and over and over. And
I have
of
all these
course,
numbers,
like, we get here
and
and I
like,
freeze.
I could probably tell you in the next 30 minutes when I calm down. No. But I liked our random conversation. You were like, which chapter you think will
You said 60 soon as I was saying 60, so you read the same page. Maybe you already knew that.
No, I remember.
You must have read the same document.
Probably.
You read the notices.
No. Oh yeah, I saw it all over with these super duper glasses. Y'all didn't know that they were that good. Yeah, halfway. I bobbled through. I have Word. For the cattle, I can tell you this because I studied more on the other question referring to how COVID affected the processing plants. They were looking at how many local, because like a standard local processing, they said something average was like 15 head or something, and it take like 1,000 of those to make up what like a large plant would do. And I was like, that is ridiculous. I remember that.
So it said if we took every bit of livestock, beef and poultry, out of the United States, took all the cows and chickens out, we would only reduce greenhouse gases by 0.36%.
Yeah.
And then like their production of methane,
Like-
Farm Bureau, I mean, Farm Bureau had posted that stuff when cow farms.
That's right. I wanted to say something about that, and I was like, should we go down this path or not? So y'all had, which one did y'all have?